The scale of the project drew it to the attention of the SS, and it was under their auspices that a huge underground factory, constructed by and employing slave labour, was built in the mountains at Nordhausen in Germany to mass produce the V2. Because of the scale of the programme, many of the more sophisticated components of the rocket, such as the gyros, control vanes, fuel tanks and elements of the guidance system, were subcontracted out to specialised manufacturers possessing the necessary skills and then shipped to the point of assembly for final construction. Integration of the many elements that made up the rocket required a continual process of testing and monitoring to ensure that the completed rocket left the factory equipped, ready for launching. First employment of the V2 came on the afternoon of the 8th of September 1944 when one crashed on Chiswick, one of the suburbs in the west of London. The victims of the 1-ton warhead carried by the rocket included 3 dead and 17 injured. Launch point for the missile was The Hague in Holland. Being a mobile system, it was very difficult to target, and once launched, the rocket was invulnerable to countermeasures. Over the next 7 months, the Germans were to launch 1,054 rockets on London, killing 2,700 people in the process. No Allied military resources were diverted to deal with the weapon, and contrary to Hitler's expectations, had no appreciable impact on the course of the war. What now follows is a detailed presentation of how the rocket was deployed and fired by the launch team. We begin the cycle with a V2 in the final stages of assembly. A technician working on the rear or bottom of the missile uses test equipment to check over the status of the rocket motor prior to the bottom fin section of the rocket body being placed over the power unit. Testing at this stage of the process is vital, as once the body shell is placed over the rocket, it will not be possible for the launch team in the field to get at the internals should there be a problem. Already in the field are elements of the launch team. A heavy-duty Fawn 4x2 Zugmaschinen tows the all-important liquid oxygen fuel container. Another vehicle tows a mobile generator. The Fawn lorry towing the LOX tanker can clearly be recognised by the wisp of oxygen venting off into the air from the rear of the large tank. This small convoy is passing through a village as it makes for the pre-arranged launch site. The V2 was a large piece of equipment and was at its most vulnerable when being moved from its place of assembly and completion to the front by rail. By the time the Germans began their launch of the V2 from The Hague, Allied forces were already in Europe and advancing into Belgium and moving on Holland itself. The whole road and rail network in northern Germany and the Low Countries, still servicing the needs of the Wehrmacht, was under constant surveillance and attack from wide-ranging Allied fighter bombers. It was for this reason that many, if not all, V2s sent to the frontline units were camouflaged to disguise them from the air. Clearly, those we are seeing here, being coloured in large sections of black and white, are test rockets, and the film has been made as an exercise for instruction purposes. That notwithstanding, what is seen here is an accurate depiction of the whole process used by all V2 launch teams in their preparation of the rocket, from its arrival at the railhead through to its actual launch, and is therefore characteristic of all launches of the V2 undertaken during the bombardment of London and later still of Antwerp. Using a mobile gantry, the rocket is manhandled by some of its ground crew from the train onto a purpose-built trailer. Of note is the lack of the warhead, which was transported separately from the main rocket body. At a site well away from the railway siding, the rocket armourers take off the seal covering the nose of the V2 and prepare to fit the actual warhead. This is found in its own sealed container section, which is raised up to the nose of the rocket body using a chain and tackle located on another mobile gantry and then offered up to the nose. Great care is taken to align the warhead module with the main body of the rocket before a firm connection is made and the warhead assembly is locked onto the body of the rocket. The warhead weighs 2,150 pounds. Elsewhere, other members of the large V-2 crew raise another telescoping trestle. These were standard issue devices and were also employed by the maintenance units attached to Panzer formations, where they could be used to lift off the turret of a heavy Tiger tank during field repairs. The lifting capacity was about 15 tons. With the warhead now fitted, the Vorn Zugmaschinen pulls the V-2 up and underneath the newly raised field gantry. A second Vorn lorry drives up to park alongside the first. It pulls the specialised trailer which is used to carry the now assembled V-2 to its launch site, and once there raise it so that it can be placed on its pre-sited launch platform. The lifting tackle on the mobile gantry is now used to move the V-2 rocket from its rail transport vehicle to the specialised carrying trailer. The slow progress of moving the rocket from one trailer to the other is indicative of the delicacy used by the ground crews in moving the missile. It is important to avoid any damage. Great care is exercised by the crew in locking down the V-2 into its carrying cradle. Although empty of fuel, the warhead is now fitted and everything is done to prevent the missile parting from the cradle in the event of an accident. As can be seen, the rocket is securely locked into the framework of the carrying trailer.